Ranking Member Gillibrand, members of the committee, I'm honored to be here alongside my distinguished fellow panelists, especially my dear friend David Schachter. I want to thank you, first of all, for giving us the gift of David's testimony. I am the CEO of American Jewish Committee, a global nonpartisan advocacy organization that stands up for Israel, that confronts anti-Semitism, and that upholds the democratic values that we cherish. I note that in this committee's history, there has never been a hearing on anti-Semitism. This hearing, unfortunately, is both necessary and historic. I thank the chairman and ranking member for holding this hearing, and I applaud your commitment to tackling anti-Semitism in a nonpartisan and bipartisan manner. Earlier this year, AJC released our annual State of Anti-Semitism in America report. The top lines are startling. 73% of American Jews feel less secure than they did a year ago. 56% have changed their behavior because of fear of anti-Semitism. In short, your constituents are deciding not to be openly Jewish because they fear they will be targeted. That's not the America any of us want. And of the 1.6 million American Jewish seniors, including more than 30,000 Holocaust survivors, 43% are worried that they will be victims of anti-Semitism, and more than half worry that their loved ones will be. And they have reason to worry. They see anti-Semitic hate online. They saw posters of Holocaust survivors torn down just last week in New York. They hear from their grandkids about campus anti-Semitism. It doesn't matter who is targeting Jews, whether it is the far left or the far right. For us, the hatred and the fear are the same. Anytime a Jewish person is under threat, it affects every Jew because we're all interconnected. But rising anti-Semitism isn't just a Jewish problem. It's a crisis for our democracy and our society. Anti-Semitism divides us. It weakens our social cohesion. It impedes our ability to solve the challenges that we face. This moment demands bold actions from our leaders. So what can Congress do to fight anti-Semitism at its roots? Well, in order to fight the foundation of anti-Semitism, we have to stamp out misinformation about the Jewish community. We do that by educating people about the Holocaust and about anti-Semitism. AJC's Translate Hate is one such resource. Building off the success of the reauthorization of the Never Again Education Act, we also urge Congress to pass the HEAL Act, to direct the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum to ensure that every student in America understands why we say never again. To counter the scourge of anti-Semitism that has rocked campuses and classrooms across the country, we urge Congress to pass the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act and the Protecting Students on Campus Act. Both are bipartisan bills that would help identify anti-Semitism and empower students to report Title VI violations they experience. We urge Congress also to work with the Trump administration and support the Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, including by providing at least $162 million in the FY26 appropriations process. I also point out that closing more than half of the OCR regional offices and cutting the number of Title VI investigators means that fewer cases will be investigated and thoroughly and timely dispensed with. Students deserve to know that the federal government will be there for them and will step in when their rights are violated. In order to combat the inferno of online anti-Semitism, we urge Congress to consider targeted and narrow reform of Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act to tackle online anti-Semitism that leads to violence in the real world. And social media companies should enforce their own rules meant to prevent harassment and hatred on their platforms. It's also imperative to protect the Jewish community from the threats we are facing now, and we urge Congress to immediately work with the Trump administration to unfreeze vital funding associated with the nonprofit security grant program and provide necessary funding so that the security needs of nonprofits like synagogues and Jewish community centers are met. And finally, to best guarantee these efforts are as effective as possible, we urge Congress to work with the Trump administration to counter anti-Semitism by taking a whole-of-government approach in its fight. And just as we fight anti-Semitism and protect the Jewish community, so too must we lift up the voices and lived experiences of Jewish Americans. Tomorrow marks the start of Jewish American Heritage Month. Congress should codify this month into federal statute to ensure that the contributions and sacrifices that Jewish Americans have made to our country are celebrated every year. And I urge each of you, I urge each of you and all of your Senate colleagues to recognize Jewish heritage, Jewish life, and Jewish contributions to American society during the month of May. Meet directly with Jewish constituents, hear their stories and their experiences. Understand that our contributions to America, our lives in America, contribute to the richness of our diversity and the greatness of our nation. My father, the late Bernard Deutch, who earned a Purple Heart fighting the Nazis at the Battle of the Bulge, always taught us that we are Jews and we are Americans, and we couldn't be more proud to be both. Jewish seniors, those who have done so much for our nation, deserve to live out their remaining lives celebrating their family and community and observing their faith openly without worrying if their children or grandchildren will be victims of anti-Semitism. They deserve the freedom that is promised to them and every American. And AJC looks forward to working together with all of you towards safeguarding that foundational promise for our seniors whose contributions and whose sacrifices have built the America that we are all blessed to live in. Thank you again for having me.